thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting local businesses and local residents on what they love about Flagler County. So today I'm super excited to have my 99th, and I'm gonna put that in stone so that when I publish it, I have to stick to the guns now. It's the 99th
That was the one
episode.
I wanted. That was the one I asked for.
Exactly. You ask and you shall receive, you know how
That's
the,
it. That's
the
it.
law of
A
attraction
beautiful
works.
thing.
My guest, John Gilvary, with me. John, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me here. It's awesome. I've been excited about doing this, and I'm glad that I got where I needed to be before the 100th.
Exactly. Yeah, John and I know each other through a few different avenues, which is, I think, very common nowadays with Palm Coast, is when you know like one person, I feel like you start to know 1,000 in the best way possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the way
Yeah.
it goes. Small town for sure. Doesn't
Oh
seem like
yeah.
it, but it is.
You don't think it is, and then you're like, oh, I know this person. It's like, oh my gosh, wait, I know that person. Then they know it just keeps going. We could talk about this for 9 hours. So
Absolutely.
but yeah, so John and I know each other through the local BNI chapter here, which he's the president of now, and then also his son runs track and cross country with my younger brother. So it's really fun. There's a lot of different areas that we end up meeting. Then I brought cookies
Absolutely.
once to his painting team. Hopefully they enjoyed the little chai cookies.
There was nothing left. I think they would have ate the plate if it looked edible. Yeah, there was no issue with anything you brought, and you can feel free to bring them anything you want anytime, they said.
Sounds good. I will definitely do that. Yeah, I need to come around again. So I'll put that in my calendar, put that in for
Perfect.
baking those
Perfect.
cookies. Yeah. Well, John, thank you so much again for the time. I'm really excited for this. It's obviously always a great conversation to get to know you a little bit more. So why don't you just kick it off really simple? Tell me a little about your journey coming here to Palm Coast and how has it been for you?
Sure. So I moved down to Palm Coast in 2002. I had previously resided up in St. Augustine. I moved down here when I was 19, spent a couple years here, then left the state, went to Wisconsin. I had a cable contracting company, kind of traveled the country for a few years, and then wanted to settle down. I had gotten married and wanted to settle down and have a family. We were on Long Island at the time and looked at the price of houses and immediately thought, let's look down in Palm Coast. So was able to get a great brand new house down here in 2002. So moved down here with my now ex-wife at the time and started, you know, when Flagler County had 35,000 people. So
Yeah.
it's been a bit of a journey, but it's been awesome, and I absolutely love it here.
Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Yeah, the last I think maybe 10 episodes, they've been pretty much all veterans, like from
Sure.
90s, the early 2000s, and it's so cool to see so many of you guys. Like I feel like at this point I've heard so many stories. I'm also from, I was also in Palm Coast in 2002, one stoplight on Belterre. I know
Yeah,
that.
you were born in 2002, weren't you?
No, I was born after 2002.
There you go. Well, that's
Um,
even better then.
yeah, like before Target was here. I remember
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
before
No,
all
it
of
was it
that.
was it was a different time.
Hmm.
But in a service industry that I work in, it couldn't be a better place, right? So you get in, you kind of get your feet on the ground, and then as things, kind of expand and blow up, within a couple of years of us being here, the population was just, it was one of the fastest growing counties in the country. And so business just kind of went from what am I going to do today to how am I going to get all of this done, which was a fantastic problem to have.
Right. I imagine it's like a whole whirlwind. It's you blink and it's now you have
Yeah,
15 new
yeah,
neighborhoods and
it
you're like,
was it
oh
was it
gosh.
was cool. I mean, obviously, we're getting a tremendous amount of growth again now in this time period, and people complain about it and have issues or whatever. It is a little different because it does take a little longer to get to one side from one side of town to the other. But from a business standpoint, again, anybody in the home services arena, it's really a blessing because
Hmm.
more new people means more new business, and that's what we all kind of depend upon. So it's
Yeah.
it's pretty.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue to talking a little bit about your business, of course. So tell me a little bit about what inspired you to go into this, the field, and how has it been, especially like you mentioned with all the Palm Coast growth?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When I moved to Palm Coast, I didn't have a job. I didn't really need one per se because the house we bought, I could kind of cover the mortgage doing whatever. So I started a handyman service. Um, every house I went to, their landscaper didn't show up. So then I started a landscaping company as well. Then I joined BNI, believe it or not, 15 years ago,
Wow.
and I grew the landscaping company from, a dozen lawns to 140 lawns. I still had the handyman business, which we did a lot of painting in that process. I had 12 or 13 employees at the time running in two different companies. And then I ran that landscaping company as well, which was Sharkscaping Services up until 2016. I sold it in 2016 and I put my sole focus into what I now run is painting with Finesse. So kept some of the same guys that I had back then, and they're still with me. Currently running a 9-man crew, 10 with me included. So we're able to service kind of, everything from that small, little job to some of the bigger homes that we have here. We can bring 10 guys and kind of knock things out in a realistic timeline without having to stretch it out over weeks and weeks and weeks if we didn't have a smaller crew. So
Yeah.
it's been great, as time has gone on, our customer base has grown. We're starting to see some of the customers that we did work for, 15, 20 years ago. We're starting to redo their projects again, which is cool. A lot's changed with them in 20 years, a lot's changed with me in 20 years. A lot of them have seen my kids go from being born to now, one being a high school senior and one being a high school junior. So it's really cool to kind of see it all come around in that way. So it's been growth even now, tons of new people coming in. And they're really a lifeblood for my business because people buy a house and maybe somebody had it painted some garishly pink color and now they want to make it their own. Well, who better to call than the color innovation guy to come in and make that house now their home. So it's been a blessing, growth all the way through, and I hope it continues.
Yeah. And I mean, I can attest to it because, like I mentioned, I brought cookies to one of the jobs that you guys are doing, which was a mutual, obviously, connection of us through Lisa
Sure,
McGarry, who has also
sure.
been on the podcast. And you guys just had them like it was a beautiful blue, is what I remember it being. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And that place it was horrid when I first walked in there. I thought, I don't know if I can make this look better, but we did. We spent some time in there, and really at the end of the day, it looked fantastic. And
Yeah.
I go there once a week for treatment, and it's kind of one of those things you walk in there and you're like, wow, I did this, or we did.
Yeah,
So it's really
exactly.
kind of cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not gonna say the how long it took you guys because I don't remember, but I remember Lisa McGarry being like, "Yeah, they did it, crazy fast time." Like when I took the cookies to you, I think later that week it was like all done, and I'm not saying that's when you guys started, but like it was, she was like, "It's already done." I'm like, "Really? Like actually?" She's like, "Yeah, you
Yeah,
guys
so
did
she
it
had
like
a timeline she
crazy."
wanted to get in, and that's one of the bonuses of having a crew that I have. Most of the guys have been with me for at least multiple years, if not a decade or
Wow.
more. So we kind of can get through stuff that maybe some other guys can't get through in a period of time like that, especially if somebody's on a timeline where you're trying to open a business and transfer locations from one to another. We're able to put that together for them and make sure that they can get that timeline met.
Yeah.
So it's
Especially
awesome.
when you've been working with the same group of people for so long, you kind of develop that like shorthand that sometimes there's just so many things that you need to communicate usually if you don't know what the other person's thinking. But because of all those years of experience, you're like, yeah, I know what John would want in this. Let's go ahead or something like
Yeah, you
that.
have
Yeah.
I always say we have a proven system in place. You know what I mean? We've
Yes.
been in business for 22 years. We have a proven system. We're not looking to reinvent anything. So just go, let's do our thing. Let's make it as beautiful as it can possibly be for the customer, and then take pride in what we do. And when we walk out of there, you can kind of pat yourself on the back along
Mm-hmm.
with the customer. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I we've known each other through BNI for maybe a little bit over a month, and obviously you've known my dad a little bit longer than that as well. But
Sure,
I know
sure.
that you really put your customers first, and I think that's the most beautiful part of me having talked to so many people in Palm Coast. That just seems to be like a very like resounding, what's the word? Like, I don't know, shared sentiment, I guess, amongst so many businesses here is that they just want to put the clients first. They want to make sure, like at least McGarry, she had a timeline. You guys just really wanted to deliver on that.
Yeah, well, you know what that does is it just builds trust amongst your customers, and then it builds trust amongst your customers, and that moves on to new customers, you know. So like all of our business is word of mouth business. I don't advertise, I never have, and I take pride in that. You know, my guys take pride in that, you know. We're not the least expensive painting contractor in town, but as far as we're concerned, we're the best. We're going to give you the most value for the money you spend.
Right.
And nobody's going to be unhappy when we're done. You know, I read horror stories, I hear horror stories. I hired this person, they took the money, they didn't come back. I hired that person, they only did the job halfway. Like, you're going to be thrilled when we're done because I'm counting on you to make sure that I paint your neighbor's house, your relative's house, and hopefully in another 20 years, your house again. So,
Yeah, 20
you know, there's
years.
there's a value in that, and there is, you know, there's a lot of people here that take pride in what they do,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some people who don't, you know, and that's sometimes that's education of the customer. You know, they need to understand, you know, what value you bring other than just being the painter, and knowing that you have 20 years of foundation behind you in this town and a reputation that you can stand behind. So that's
Exactly.
that's hugely important to me, the guys that work for me and the contractors that I do business with. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
I'm going to give somebody a referral, I know that I can give that referral and understand that it's going to come back to me with a smile on the customer's face and not an issue. So that's
Yeah.
awesome as well.
That's so cool. Yeah. I'm so glad that you touched on that as well. That's really important. And that's really what drives people is having that, just caring about that basic
Absolutely.
thing that we should all care about. But,
Yeah,
sometimes,
it should be that way, but unfortunately, it's not always that way. So
yes.
it's nice to be part of the should be way instead of the
Exactly.
not so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a veteran of Palm Coast. You've been here, I would say a few minutes, definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
couple minutes. Well, I mean, basically, I've been here your entire lifetime and then some. So I'm gonna take that.
yeah. Well, yeah.
When you
So
put
what
it
would
when you put it
you
in that perspective, it just makes me feel old. But you know, I
Well, I
but I
didn't
appreciate it.
that's why I don't volunteer the information. You did ask. I feel, but yeah.
That's when you said
um,
that, you're like, oh yeah, back in 2002, and I'm thinking she's not even that she wasn't born yet, you know.
I
So
apologize.
that's
I
awesome.
apologize for bringing that
No, no, listen,
up.
hey, it's okay. I like you, and I think you're doing a wonderful thing. I think these podcasts are incredible for our community. I've enjoyed everyone that I've watched, and I haven't watched the other 98, but everyone that I've been able to watch, I've enjoyed the people you've had on, the message that they had, and just to get other people's perspective on, you know, what does Palm Coast mean to them, and what does
Oh,
growth mean to them, and what is business. So I think it's fantastic that you're doing this, and I thank you for
yeah.
allowing me to be on and
Yeah.
kind of opening my eyes to some of the other folks around who are doing wonderful things as well.
Well, thank you so much. I did not pay him to say that, you guys. He volunteered that, which is so kind of
We
him, and I
take payment in
appreciate.
cookies and cupcakes, and I know you're good at both of those. So
I do. I'm okay at those for sure. Well, to wrap it up, we'll spend a few minutes. I'd love to know what would you recommend for, us newbies, people who are a little bit more greeny about Palm Coast, maybe places to go, events they can go to, groups they can join, anyone to kind of get active with the community, kind of put themselves out there.
sure. So, you know, the wonderful thing about this community is there's so many avenues that you can go through, whether you go through a church group, whether you go through a business networking group. You know, obviously I'm a BNI guy. So BNI for me has been a huge influence in my life in Palm Coast. It's allowed me to grow my business. It's allowed me to grow my personal life. It's allowed me opportunities that had I not been part of it would never have been there. With that said, there's bunches of, you know, different groups through the chamber and different groups through, you know, women's organizations and stuff. And I think some of the stuff I see coming out of them is inspiring. You know what I mean? They're doing things to give back to the community, which is a huge thing that I value, because I feel like this community has provided so much for me. And if you can give back through different organizations, even volunteering, to do beach cleanups, to do something at the hospital, to do different various events where they bring the community in. It brings people together, like-minded people together who are looking to make Palm Coast better, to make Flagler County a better place. I think it's fantastic. You know, I enjoy every opportunity I can to network with people from the mayor on down, because the connections that you make is kind of what allows you to feel like part of the community. And once you feel that sense of community, I think it's better for everybody. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're part of something and something bigger than you, I think it allows you to be a better member of the community, a better business owner, and a better member of society on a whole. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you like to bike, there's tons of bike trails. If you like the
Yep.
beach, there's beaches. You know, I have a boat. I love to be on the water. So, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for folks to have recreational activities. And if they want to come together for a common goal, we do have so many wonderful charities and non-for-profits and stuff that you can volunteer your time with and make connections with like-minded people. So
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. You know what I mean? We have such a varied demographic here in town, from from kids like you to to people who are, yesterday I went to a Kiwanis event, and there was a gentleman there who was 87 years old and won a Lifetime Achievement Award, and he's out and active and participating
Nice.
in a wonderful organization. And it was really cool to listen to him talk about, he was awarding Student of the Month to students from the two local high schools. And to have him kind of give them some advice from somebody who's been here a lot longer than me or you and I combined, it was really cool to watch the students kind of absorb that. So, uh,
Yeah.
those opportunities present themselves on an hourly, daily, weekly basis here. It really is about you immersing yourself into the community, and then what avenue basically fits you best,
Mm-hmm.
um, and where your heart lies. So
Yeah.
uh, I love Flagler County. I think it's wonderful. Sometimes the growth, it is what it is, right?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's a wonderful place to live. It's a safe place to live. The people who you meet out in public, for the most part, are just going to be the nicest people that you've ever met in your life, because they're happy to be here and they're enjoying the Palm Coast lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought up the nonprofits. I think that's the number one answer I get, which is a really great sign, I think, of our community. And I learn a new nonprofit, I think, every time. And you don't
Yeah,
realize that
yeah, it's
there's
pretty
so
cool,
much, but there are
right?
so many places, like you mentioned, that you can connect with like-minded people. And that connection that you build because you guys are working towards something bigger than you, you're helping, you're giving back. It's a lot stronger than maybe something random, something else.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah,
absolutely. I agree with you. Those are the kind of relationships that you develop and they build lifelong friendships out of.
exactly.
So that's, we all love to have those people in our lives that we can kind of, without saying a word, you kind of understand where they're coming from. And that comes from
Exactly.
a sense of community.
Yeah. And I think if there's one thing I've learned about running this podcast, it's that when you start giving towards the community, it starts coming back, tenfold, which has been really
Oh,
amazing to see.
absolutely.
And that's why I always, recommend that people just kind of put themselves out there in the community, just get to know your neighbors just a little bit, maybe one by one, whatever pace you need to go at, you go at,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
definitely worth it in the end.
Yeah.
So John, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This has
My
been
pleasure.
really,
I
really fun.
appreciate you. It was my pleasure to speak with you, and you're wonderful and an
Thank you.
inspiration as a young person who's getting themselves out there and getting this information out to people. I think it's absolutely fantastic, Macy.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you again for all of your kind words. This has been really, really sweet and just a lot of great time. So thank you again. And to everyone listening, I appreciate you as well. And I will see you next time.